GamingBolt presents 15 video game endings that raised more questions than answers. Always leave them wanting more, they say. The ending of a game is a precious thing. After all your hours of effort put into seeing through the latest AAA blockbuster hit, we all hope for a satisfying conclusion that leaves us excited to see what's to come, or wraps everything up neatly from a years-long series. Though some of those more artsy games with large stories to tell can sometimes be hard to figure out, leaving dangling questions sometimes we don't get an answer to. From the really deep endings that demand analysis and still make little sense, to the ones that were just out to lunch. We're here today to talk about 15 video game endings that raised more questions than answers. Oh, and spoilers ahead, obviously. The Order 1886. The Order 1886 had a fantastic premise when it was first announced, and if the entire thing wasn't over in a totally linear 6 hours, perhaps it would have been better received. Just as the story gets going with the hero Galahad, who learns the terrible truth that the head of his order has known the truth of the Lycans all along and harbored one as his own son, forced to be a martyr to keep the order stable. The game just cuts out into lame sequel bait, and we're left asking where the last 6 hours of our lives went.
The council has declared martial law throughout the city. There is no telling when the authorities will decide to mount an offensive. Now is not the time for heroics. I would advise we follow Lady Lakshmi's lead and leave the city.
I'll join you shortly. And don't you know, I'm Galahad, no more.
Limbo. Playdead first started to master their craft of creating endings where what exactly happened could be many things with the game Limbo. Just by the title, you can kind of presume the boy is dead, but what of the nature of the hellscape he crosses through the game? The hard shift to mechanical and urban environments for the last third of the game? And finally, when he catches up with his sister behind the treehouse, only after the credits roll for us to find flies buzzing around where they just were before. The boy is dead, but is the sister dead? Is the sister even actually there, or is this just another trick? Figuring out these questions is part of the fun for Playdead. Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. In one of Hideo Kojima's strangest twists that takes quite a lot of mental gymnastics to understand, there are just so many angles to the ending of Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain that it's nearly impossible to simply sum it up. It's revealed that Punished Snake is not Big Boss, but the medic that saved Big Boss. But in a way, you're both Big Boss because you've both built that legacy. And Ocelot and Big Boss sold the world by making you Big Boss to fool the Patriots, and my head hurts.
You've written your own history. You're your own man. I'm Big Boss. And you are too. No, he's the two of us together. Where we are today, we built it. This story, this legend, it's ours. We can change the world and with it the future. I am you and you are me. Carry that with you wherever you go. Thank you, my friend. From here on out, you're Big Boss.
Life is Strange. In Life is Strange, the unexplained power of protagonist Max to rewind time and play with the consequences of her decisions plays a little bit with the butterfly effect. As a direct result of saving her childhood friend Chloe from being killed, the universe conjures a fierce storm that will wipe the sleepy town of Arcadia Bay out, along with all the innocent people in it. Or Max will have to use her power to set the universe right and allow Chloe to die. Time travel always leaves questions behind, but the tragic decision that Max has to make has us asking how a developer could do that to us.
I miss you so much. I'll always love you. Now get out of here, please. Do it before I freak. And Max Caulfield, don't you forget about me. Never.
Gears of War 4. Gears of War 4 needed a little bit of leeway to stretch things into a new trilogy after the conclusive ending to Gears of War 3, but when players finally caught up to Kat's mother to find her not within a pod to become a grunt, but being meticulously turned into a new queen for the Swarm, and a necklace with a locust emblem apparently belonging to Kat's grandmother being given to her. It turns out that the necklace bears resemblance to the symbol of Locust Queen Mira, implying that Reyna was her daughter and Kat is her granddaughter. But then a strange scene occurs wherein Oscar actually survived, and, well, we can only ask, what?
Again. No. It's okay.
Infamous 2. Infamous 2 was the follow-up to the flawed open-world hero sandbox that Cole McGrath deserved, bringing two very distinct arcs to an end in two equally final ways. But were they? The evil ending consists of Cole becoming what he promised to face down, and ending humanity for conduits, and the canonically accepted good ending has Cole sacrificing himself for humanity. Or does he? According to a question mark-shaped bolt of lightning. Both endings seem to come out of nowhere and represent a pretty hard shift for the characters. While they're satisfying set pieces, it's telling that the PS4 follow-up Second Son just kinda gave a shrug to how the title ended. Bloodborne. Throughout the game, you discover an item called 1/3 of umbilical cord. Though there are 4, you need to only collect 3 and consume them before fighting Gehrman. Once the moon presence arrives, it can't take a hold of you and thus begins the final battle. When you win, the plain doll can be seen picking up a slug, and judging from the description on the trophy obtained, you've essentially become the moon presence. In infant form, of course, and we were left trying to figure out what the hell happened. The many endings of Silent Hill 2. Silent Hill 2 is often considered one of the greatest horror titles thanks to a variety of ways the game explores the damage of protagonist James. And the creators of the game to this day have not outlined that there's a single canon ending to the story, instead stating that, quote, "there are so many real endings for each player." Whether James killed his wife Mary, how he responds to it, including suicide or getting together with Maria, or even a silly dog or UFO ending can happen based on the player. The game itself is designed to leave questions about what's real and what is Silent Hill making James pay for. Alan Wake. Alan Wake 2 plays with some eldritch endings beyond human comprehension, and the cycle of supernatural events surrounding Cauldron Lake, the Dark Presence, the Departure, a book Wake himself has not written, and the disappearance of his wife deals with many themes. It's through his writing, though, that Wake can defeat the Dark Presence, and Alan is forced to give himself to the lake, and write his own way out of it so his wife can be free. It's a lot of plot points to take in that, without some reflection, can start to seem like some cheap DLC trap ending.
There's a long journey through the night back into the light.
Alice? Alice? Oh no!
The Stanley Parable. The Stanley Parable is a hard game to talk about because the entire point of the game is one big question on the nature of human choice and free will. The main freedom ending involved just doing everything you're told by the narrator, and then being told that he is free, ironically. The other 18 endings just get stranger from there, leaving us to wonder about how many different things the game has to say about the human experience. Braid. Braid is a cute little puzzle platform game about the nuclear bomb. Not convinced? It's only at the ending, Chapter 1. Yeah, seriously, where the entire story of seeking out the princess is turned onto its head. When time reverts, or rights itself and reveals Tim as the evil presence who has been pursuing the princess, who represents the Manhattan Project all along. Subtle hints exist all over the game in hindsight, but when you first reach the final piece of the puzzle, it's pretty confusing. No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky held a lot of promise pre-release for players to explore an endless expanse of a procedural universe in new, fun challenges every step of the way, and a mystery teased for those who somehow find their way to the very center of the universe. When players of the already disappointing game finally got there, were they treated to some epic reveal about the nature of the game and its universe? No. You more or less get the game reset and told to begin again. How could you do this to us? Inside. First played with our heads in Limbo, but the final secret ending to follow up Inside is truly meta. The human experiments all around and the nature of the boy and how he connects into the terrible abominations of the game are terrible enough. But when the ending suggests that the boy isn't in control, but you've been controlling the boy, or has the blob been controlling the boy, or has the blob been controlling the player controlling the blob controlling the boy, there's long thesis write-ups on this ending because of just how many different questions it leaves. Fable 2. Get ready for something weird. When you finally chase down the architect of your entire life in Fable 2, Lucian, the man who killed your beloved sister and sent you hurtling out the window as a child. Not quite sure how the dream sequence that happened after he shot you in a completely different location ties into how you got there? Are you in for a huge set-piece final battle? Turns out, you fire your gun, and he drops. Then, the mysterious Teresa appears, and apparently has the ability to offer you one of 3 choices. 1. Resurrect the people who died. 2. Resurrect your family and your dog. Or 3. Get a small loan of 1,000,000 gold. The questions we were left with, even after teasing Fable 3 in the DLC, were mostly along the lines of, that's it? Mass Effect 3. An epic space opera where players have grown over many years with the diverse crew of the Normandy. Through fun times, hard times, reapers, and suicide missions. And what does years of investment lead to when it all wraps up with Mass Effect 3? An ending where you choose who got which flavor of death. And all the various team members you've spent years growing up with and developing over 3 games? Not wrapped up at all. Mass Effect 3 mostly left us with a single question. Why would this happen?
And that'll be about it for this one. If you guys like what we're doing at GamingBolt, please consider subscribing to our channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video.